Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome to another comic art collector conversation. It's been a while. We've had a few weeks off, but we're back. We're fresh. We're ready to throw some fun topics this evening that we think everybody's going to really appreciate. We may even have a guest or two that you weren't expecting show up later on. You never know what can happen on our show. But we've got a couple new panelists today, so I thought it would be good. I put them in the top slots up there. So Javo/Ryan. Ryan, can you tell us a little bit about your time in the hobby? Because I've actually never had you on an interview show or a collector show before. So give us a little breakdown on your time in the hobby and what got you started.
All right, so I've been reading comics since I was about 6, so it's a little over 30 years. Big X-Men fan. I've been collecting art since 2004. Is when I started going to conventions. I live in Buffalo, so I used to go up to Toronto a lot. I still do, besides the COVID times. And yeah, I'd have my little bound sketchbook going around to all the different artists with my head sketches, and just getting to know everybody. And that was a long time ago, back in 2004. Nobody really charged for anything. So I mean, I have Peter Laird pieces, I have Bruce Timm pieces, just in a little sketchbook, and it was just I've been hooked ever since.
Very cool. And we've never had a good view of somebody's ceiling before, but we were all talking about that before the show. So why don't you tell everybody what you got up in the rafters so that they won't start asking us in the chat.
It'll get distracting. I'll shift it a little bit too. So up on the rafters, it's toys. It's all Marvel Legends and various Marvel toys. There's some.
Oh, very nice.
Looks great.
And Jason, those are fighting words when somebody says they're another X-Men art fan, right?
Yeah, man. Superman art is where it's at, Ryan. That's what you should start collecting. Highly recommend it. Maybe even Hulk, whatever.
Yeah, X-Men. Nobody likes X-Men.
Never.
All right, and Dave, we had you on a collector interview show probably 6 months ago, but
I think it was closer to a year. I think it's closer to a year.
So maybe give everybody a little bit of rundown on your collecting tastes and all that as well.
I'm a big fan of the Hulk. That's where the focus of my collection is. I started art around 05, I think. Before that, comics, statues, figures, you name it. But around 05, I found art, and wasn't long before that's where I shifted everything over to. So yeah, it's been a descent into the pit ever since, and I love it though. It's fun. I don't have nearly the setup. I have nothing. These pieces of paper are sitting on storage or shipping boxes because I just moved rooms, so I don't have the great framed wall that everybody else has. So I'll have to just look on with envy. But yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm glad to talk about some art and hopefully learn something.
There you go. And how long have you been collecting, Dave?
Comic art since about 05. So
Yeah.
about, I'd say 15, 16 years. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Very, very nice. All right. So since Jason's the veteran, or well, one of the veterans here, I decided he would get to start us off and for the show this evening. So Jason, as far as I know, I have a couple slides for you too. So maybe just let me know, or do you want me just to show them kind of at random while we're talking about?
Yeah, that's fine, Bill. Like I said, I don't know if you released the topics beforehand or whatever, but what I wanted to talk about today is in-person shows. I just was at the NJ ArtCon last week, and we've been in this COVID world now for a year and a half, where shows are kind of tampered down, and online buying's great, and CAF Live has been a great fill-in or whatever, but going to a show like that, you really remember, like, there's art to it. There's different ways to negotiate. The dealers that may never change their price will come down on price. A perfect example is I was hanging out with Dan, who's bootlegging me as a habit, in the chat, and he watched me make a trade with Rich Donnelly, and it's almost like getting stuff from Cool Lines is nearly impossible. But making a trade was really easy. I wound up walking away with some very nice pieces, and Dan was kind of amazed by that. So that's kind of what made me think about this is as great and easy as buying online is, the show is where you can still make connections. And, for instance, um, Jim Warden was there. Jim Warden, who reps John Byrne, and he literally stopped at John Byrne's house the night before and walked in with a stack of pieces from John Byrne. You're not getting that online. Like, you're not seeing the art that you do see at a live show. You can see here what's going on here, and I just thought it was something that people need to remember, that you can't replace everything with online. You find art. I'm actually in the process of trying to make a deal on a piece that wasn't for sale, just from talking to somebody at the show that wouldn't have happened. Every dealer there had pieces that aren't online, right? Going through Bachara's folios, going through Anthony had his entire. I mean, Anthony has so much art, you have no clue what's there. I just kind of wanted to hear your guys' opinion. Are you ready for shows? How do you handle it? What do you look for when you go to a live show?
Well, I have a question for you. Do you think it's easier negotiating in person than through emails and chat and over the phone?
100%, Bill. I've never seen someone take out a stack of hundreds and people's positions on changing prices change very quickly. Yeah. There's one dealer that won't bend on their price, but I can tell you every other dealer there, and all the major dealers were there, right? Glenn flew in, Bachara was there, Albert was there, Jason from Essential Sequential was there, Anthony was there, Warden was there. All these big dealers were there, and every single one of them was negotiable on their price, other than Bachara. So that's the kind of thing that you can get in person, but you can't do. Essential Sequential. Jason he reached out to Andy and Adam Kubert, knowing the show was happening, and had a list of pieces that were just for sale at this show. They're not going on a site. They're never going to be seen. He asked Andy and Adam to put some pieces together. Jason had stuff that was only for sale there. That's the kind of things you can see and do at a show that you can't do online. I think that's something that we need to remember. I've never seen, I think people are much more flexible in person than they are online.
Sure. Fish is letting you know that you forgot about Ian Anker.
Yes, they were my partners. The three of us actually split two tables and had some art there. So that was fun too, just hanging out with them. Like, we sat at the table all day. I talked to Fred Chamberlain for 15 minutes. I never met Fred before in my life. That was a great conversation, and I'll definitely talk to him again. And that's just, you can't replace it. As much as we can fill the gap with stuff like this, it's not the same as going to a live show, feeling the art, seeing how you feel. I just thought it was a great topic to talk about and to discuss the ins and outs of it, because we haven't had live shows in so long. I know at one point we were thinking, well, we don't need live shows anymore, right? I know we've talked about that. And I'm totally not on board with that anymore. And I may actually try to fly out to the art show in Cali next year that they have, just because I think it's such a different dynamic as far as buying art.
That's interesting. And, comparing that to a online sales platform or anything, whether it's Dueling Dealers or what Glenn and Will and Bashar are doing, the difference really is that it's a one-on-one negotiation. And, I think when we're in these formats that are online, there's always going to be that, I don't know, I would think that in some cases, there's always going to be a certain hesitation from some buyers to want to just, try to go out and negotiate in front of 200 other collectors or however many people are watching that. It's so much easier when you're standing in front of the seller, whomever they are, to try to, negotiate a deal, whether you might try to slide in some trade or haggle them down a few $100s on something.
Well, that's the other thing, especially when you're trying to work with trade, Bill, being in person and having a folio in your hand, you can see how someone reacts to something, whether they have some interest for certain pieces, and be able to negotiate around it. I actually wound up making 2 trades with Rich Donnelly there. And the second one, there were a few different pieces he was looking at. And I wound up just saying, all right, Rich, take all 3 of these for this. And it was a different page that I had looked at earlier that we weren't even talking about at that time. and it worked out beautifully. It lined up perfectly, and we made a deal. That would have never happened online. You know, I've made trades online. I made trades with Berkey online, and that's like a painful process. Send an email with a picture of a piece. Wait 2 days for Berkey to reply. He's not interested in that. Find another piece. Well, how much do you value this one at? Well, how much do you value it at? It's like, what could be done in 4 minutes in person goes over through 2 week span of email, and you forget what you were even trying to buy at the beginning of the conversation.
Very true. Yeah, because none of that can happen during a live claim sale unless you're dealing with just one person. I think you can get some negotiating in there, but even then, it's still you're negotiating in front of all your peers. So not a lot of people have the nerve to do that. To bundle a deal or those sorts of things. They'll keep their mouth shut and maybe hope those things slide through the cracks and then contact the seller after a show like that. It's so much easier when you're able to talk directly to the seller and work those things out. So so I saw Mikhail said he had a poker face. So it's a good thing. You were sharing some table space. Do you try to keep a straight face? You don't show people that you're too excited about something?
Never show that I'm too excited, but everybody knows I'm an X-Men fan though too. So it's a little tough, right? I mean,
right.
Jason S. pulls out the Andy Kubert pages, and I'm like, no, I really don't like this. That's what I try to say.
Yeah, he knows exactly which portfolio to pull out when you're at the table.
Yeah, exactly. And me and Jay are pretty friendly, but even that, like, I've been to his house, and I still was able to make at a show. People are in the wheeling dealing. We joke about Anthony on Dueling Dealers, how he's always looking at wheel and deal.
Mm-hmm.
Once to that show atmosphere, everybody's into that wheeling dealing atmosphere. And I just I saw Mikhail make a comment about seeing a page in person made him pull the trigger on a page. That's the other thing. How many times somebody gotten something in the mail and you're like, oh, this is smaller than I thought it was, or oh, I didn't realize this was a stat, or it's yellowing, or whatever. You see all that, and you see the actual page, you know what you're getting, and it's just a smoother transaction for me anyway. I could see other people having a different point of view, but I'm a natural barterer, I guess, so it's much more comfortable for me.
Yeah, no, I've never been good at haggling at all. If I don't like the price, I tend to walk away unless it's really, really something I want. I've never been good at it at all. So I don't know about anybody else. But the thing is, are we all looking for it? I can't wait to get to my first show. I'll say that. I mean, I'm envious that you guys got to do that, and even those who get to go to New York Comic Con, regardless of whether or not the Artist Alley is as great as it normally is. I mean, I'm envious of anybody getting to get to that show as well. So but I've kind of resigned myself to 2022.
Yeah, I'll be the first to say that my favorite shows so far has been during the pandemic. So I went to last October in Los Angeles, where they had the one by the airport, and there wasn't a huge attendee list. There was maybe like 10 people at a time, but I met a really good buddy Bing there, who was actually boothing, and he was kind of doing like an Artist Alley thing while everyone was selling art, and we really connected. And he works at Facebook, and over his last year, he's become like one of my favorite like comic art buddies. And then this last one, then there was a second one, then there was Torpedo Con. And that was the con where I actually got to like spend a lot of time with Albert. And it was fun because I got to hang out his booth for a while. It wasn't like a lot of traffic. He wasn't super, like, his attention wasn't super divided. Mm-hmm. And then at one point, I remember at the end of the day, we even got to walk around. I got to walk around Albert. And like, it was super cool to like, as I went through pieces I was interested in, I'll get quoted, and it'd be so different when Albert's sitting next to me on what I'm getting quoted from the dealers than what I asked earlier the day. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And like, so I got to do a lot of learning and just kind of, having deeper relationships with some of the people that were there over the last 3 shows I've been to since the pandemic. So I'm really looking forward to the upcoming shows for sure.
I've got a question for Jason.
Fire away.
Sure.
Yeah, Jason, you obviously cleaned it.
Say that again, Dave.
You broke up or you're frozen there, Dave.
Dave's frozen.
How much of the art was only available at the show versus you could have got online?
How much? Well, that's tough because Anthony has a million pieces online that were actually there, right, Dave?
Yeah.
So I guess I could answer the question better by saying there was enough that was available only there that it would make it worthwhile to travel there. Not like it was local for me, but that's why I'm saying I'm probably going to look into going to the LA show next year because there was so much there. Warden I picked up a job. I haven't even shown anybody yet, but I picked up an unused piece from John Burns' Elsewin of Colossus and Kitty. Like the piece would never have been available other than at that show. Like I said about Jason S., he had stuff from all of his guys. It wasn't just Andy and Adam. That was the people that I was most interested in. But he had Tim Sale stuff coming out. It's not out yet. Even Bachara has a lot of stuff in his portfolios that he does not have online. So what percentage? I don't know that I can put a percentage on.
Yeah, enough.
Dealers have Albert has so much online. Anthony has so much online that the percentage was maybe 10%. And then keep in mind, there were also private people set up there that aren't dealers that you've never seen their stuff. Dan Poddick had stuff there. There was another, I forget his name escapes me at the moment. There's another big collector from the area that set up.
Brad Savage.
He had a Dave Cockrum X-Men 95 page there. Like it's not online.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
There was more than enough there that was not readily available online to make it worthwhile.
That's good.
Even
to hear.
for
Yeah, and Bashara really does have, he's got a lot more than people who, if you haven't seen him at a show, you wouldn't know that because he doesn't really, he updates his site so slowly, his Friday art drops and whatnot. But no, he has a lot. And so clearly I'd say 95% or more of what Bashara has for sale is only for sale if you see him at a show.
Even Albert usually cuts his prices slightly when he does a live show,
Mm-hmm.
Because you'll see he'll have a posted on it versus, and if you go look it up online, it's a little bit higher. Nothing crazy, but it's better.
I agree with what you said about doing shows. I haven't gone in 2 years, and I went to one yesterday. It was just a local show, and there wasn't a whole lot there, but there were artists just to kind of get out, talk to artists, find out what they're doing, catch up with people that I've known, for a while. I got a few sketches in my sketchbook, and it was fun. I just needed it, just to get out and walk around and just talk comics and talk comic art. It was a nice change of pace. But I agree. I think that you're never going to replace the live show element. It's just too different. But I think having what Bill and some others have offered show us that it doesn't have quite the impact you would have thought it would, because a lot of it can be replaced. But yeah, I'm looking forward to getting to a show with a lot of comic artists and reps and dealers and stuff like that.
And Bill, don't get me wrong. I love Comic Art Live. Oh. I will participate in it because there's going to be people that you can't reach. But I just and if you haven't gone to one of these smaller art shows, I prefer them to then the big shows. I've been to New York Comic Con, I've been to C52. Putting all the art dealers in one small room with, I don't know, 150 people, like that's all that was there. So like Carl said, you can sit there and chat. I was talking to Albert about the Mets for 20 minutes, like you could make real connections with people and take your time and not be rushed running around trying to do 37 things and find different commissions and whatever you do it.
For me, that's a pretty healthy drive or to get out there and back for one day. I've never gone just for the reasons I didn't know it would be worth it, but hearing what you've said, and I've seen some stuff in the comments, it sounds like it would be worth it. So probably have to make a point to get to one.
I was trying to convince James to fly out the day before. He was looking at flights. I don't think his wife signed off on it.
No, it is one of it is the show to go to. I mean, the LA show is good too. The Bashara puts on, and it's being in that proximity. There's just so many art dealers and collectors who set up that it's definitely the best small art focused show that's out there right now. So and I haven't gone in I think 4 years, but I've probably been to about 5 of them, and they've always been a lot of fun.
So Jason, how much game planning do you do before you? Oh, sorry about that. How much game planning do you do before you hit a show? I mean, for me personally, I'm actually, as of this week, thinking about focusing my collection a little bit. So as I've been flipping through stuff, oh, you know what? I don't know if this belongs anymore. Like, is there like a game plan every time you go? And would love to hear a little bit about how you organize your collection before you go.
Yeah, so I'll try to reach out to some of the people that I know are going to be there. Like I had prearranged something to pick up from Jim Warden, and I had something from Jason that he was bringing me that we had talked about earlier. And then I curate my collection, right? Just like you said, I go through and what doesn't fit and what can go. And just because I'm bringing something to the show doesn't mean I'm definitely getting rid of it. But I want to have an idea of how I value it and be prepared to make a deal for it if I am, right? You don't want to go with just a random portfolio of art and not in your head know this I'll value at $1,800 or this I value at $2,000 or whatever it may be, so that when you are in the middle of trying to negotiate, and that was one thing actually making the deals with Rich didn't work out easily because like I said, Fish and Anker and I split the table as dealers, so I had price tags on all my pieces. So it made Rich able to kind of understand what I was looking for, and we lined up right away by using those numbers. So even if I didn't have a table and I brought a portfolio, I would have numbers attached to it, maybe not physically like I did because I was showing them, but at least in my head or be able to speak to very quickly. Because the last thing you want to do when you're trying to trade for something is have that person guessing, right? And not know where you are. That's part of my preparation. Like I said, I tried to line up some things because nobody wants to go to a show and walk away empty-handed either, right? That's kind of a bummer when you take a whole day and walk around and not find anything.
I wanted to highlight this question too, Jason, just from what you just said. Do you ever feel obligated to bring home artwork when you have travel expenses for a live show? And you could just, whether you do or you don't, whenever you go to a show, I mean, all of us go with the expectation that our portfolios will be richer for that trip, right? So, you've got your cash, you've got some art for trade, maybe. And sure, I think, the game plan is to walk away with more art always, Derek. So it would be a failed mission, I think, if we went home with nothing, right?
Well, I went not this show, the show before, I don't think I picked up anything. And that was
I do know that I do agree with that comment though, because when I go to a show, I want to come home with something. And if there's nothing big to bring home, even a sketch or something, you feel like, because when you look at your collection, a lot of times you look back and you associate a piece of art with a show or maybe the experience, or maybe you got to meet an artist. I've met artists and talked to them for hours, just hanging out. And I do always feel this, I don't know if it's obligation, but this urge to like find something. And a lot of times it's just like a $50 sketch or something, and that's why I take a book. But yeah, I can identify with that question posted. I feel that.
Like Larry said, no deal's better than a bad deal. And that is true.
Yeah.
But in total, Jason, how many pieces of artwork did you walk away with from Comic Art Con?
A lot.
You don't want to say, do you?
How many
Does
portfolios?
the book count as one piece, or does that count?
You measuring it in numbers or how tall a stack was?
All right.
I actually more than I thought I would. I thought a lot more than I thought I was.
I will make another comment to Jason. Jason, you've got a real kind of the gift of gab. You're very comfortable with talking and you don't really have a fear of throwing out a number or negotiating. A lot of collectors don't have that. And I know that I would have been in that camp at one point. And I kind of like what you said, Bill, price asked, I'm either going to pay it or I'm not. And I've learned to, as long as you're polite and, you know how to, not insult somebody, I've learned to do the negotiating. And I've actually done a lot of trades lately myself. I've got a couple pieces in my collection this last year that, according to Duke's, they're A pieces, and the only way I could get them was to do a trade. and I tried to buy them for years, couldn't get them. But as soon as I threw a trade out there, I had them. And so I think just do it. If you're not comfortable, just start having conversation. Just say, hey, would you consider this, or what do you think about this? And
Nope.
it just takes practice, like something that just part of your DNA. But yeah,
Sure.
I've grown into it.
And Ryan, you've been awfully quiet. I know you have. I saw your Facebook. You've got lots of photos of you at shows. So what's do you have a show in the future, or what's your thoughts on this topic?
No, I actually I can't wait. This is gonna be my first time going to New York Comic Con this year. A lot of it's because it's not going to be as crazy. Yeah, I know I'm going to be missing some of those fun international guests, but I think also because of that, a lot of like the smaller guests I might not be able to get tables are going to get them now. So it's going to be really fun to kind of just go and meet new people. But I'm just looking forward to seeing my friends again. Yeah, sure. I mean, there's so many people I haven't seen in 2.5 years now that I'm just itching for it. Like I love walking through the con doors, or when you first hit Art's Alley, and you get like that adrenaline rush. It's like, even if I have a game plan, like sometimes it just goes out the window because I'm just like, holy shit, like what are they doing here? What are they doing here? Like, But yeah, so I'm really looking forward to it. It's funny. I almost went up to that art show. I was thinking about it. I'm like, man, I was like, because I was on vacation, and I was like, it's not that far. I was only like an 8-hour drive, but the wife said no.
So that'll be your first show since beginning of 2020.
Yeah, I think Fan Expo 2019 would have been my last show.
Same here.
That's a long time between shows.
Yeah. So I'm really itching. I was just like, everything's booked. It's all ready to go. So I was like, I don't even care who shows up at this point. Like, I just want to be there.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, we're all well. So Jason, so we're not going to talk about how much art you brought back with you, but in general, I think it sounds like it was a good show. I mean, I saw Dino had that video that gave us a good feel for everybody who was at the show. It seemed fairly well attended. So I mean, overall, I'd say it was a success. I mean, I don't know. What do they hold that? It's every 4 months. I think is there 3 times a year.
Twice a year.
Okay. Twice a year. Okay. Maybe it used to be 3, but so yeah, maybe I'll try to go to the next one. That'd be fun. I think they said they're changing the venue, or maybe I'm not sure if it's going closer to New York City or something along those lines. But in the interview that Dino did, I think he mentioned he was going to change hotels.
Yeah, he moved it out further west. With COVID, the hotels where he was closer to the city weren't having the event, so he moved it out here, and it's tough for people from the city without vehicles that don't drive, like to take mass transit or whatever to get out there. Right. So Joe did moving it back closer to New York. I think he's going to have it at Sea Caucus again. So that'll be much more central for people traveling in to get there. Sure.
All right, very good. Well, a very good topic, Jason, and timely since we just had the show. All right, so tonight we're doing something a little different as far as looking at artwork from CAF. James thought it would be fun to mix it up and look at some artwork from the recent auctions that happened. The one at Comic Link and Heritage as well. So each person is gonna talk about 2 pieces of art. And Ryan, you actually get to be our first guinea pig for this new concept to talk about a couple pieces from the recent auctions. So let me get the first image that you had me select, and here we go.
All right. So this one to me was more of Michael Turner's my favorite artist. I miss him terribly, and I've always just loved his work. And the one thing I think as a collector and as a big Marvel fan, I'm sad that we didn't get to see him do so much more Marvel work. So these Onslaught variant cover, it was so much fun because it was like, it was the Avengers and we got Scarlet Witch, and it was kind of a throwaway miniseries, but like this is it's just so much of the work I really wanted to see him do. And Bias, I'm a huge fan of the Onslaught event, So like it was just like it just hit me in the heart. And then when I saw that this one was actually on auction and it went, like I was like, it was just I couldn't afford it, but like man, I was watching it so close because I was like, I love this cover.
It's nice.
Yeah, I love Turner's work as well.
And you know what I like about this one, and there's a couple other covers he did as well, is that obviously Michael Turner's always been known for his beautiful women. But I think a lot of his male designs get kind of overlooked. And some of these covers, specifically even like the Captain America and even like the Thor and even like the Thing, like I really enjoyed the just everything he did. And it was nice to see him kind of branch off for it wasn't just bikini clad women. It was actually he was drawing teams, and this to me this is one of those covers that was just like, man, I just love it. I still love it. I have this book graded somewhere in my collection just because I love the cover so much.
So you didn't win this one though, right?
No, I did not.
All right, let's see the other one. This is a beauty too.
All right, so this one is just so much fun to see. I'm a huge Gambit's my favorite character. It's I'm an X fan of the early '90s, like so I fall right into that trap. But he's been my favorite since I was a kid. He's still my favorite today. And to see this page come up, by Arthur Adams, which is just incredible. But out of the annual, which is I know you could argue about it, but it's the first appearance of Gambit in the Marvel universe, and to actually have a panel with him down there, just to me it was just like I was like, man, like this is like a dream page from just growing up. Again, I didn't win this one either, but even seeing it come up was kind of mind blowing because this is one of those pages that I don't know, like if I had it, it would just never go anywhere.
No, if this was in my collection, yeah, I'd probably be saying the exact same thing. It's not going anywhere.
But it's like, and it's kind of a piece of at least the modern era, history, because it's like a character like Gambit he's not going anywhere. I mean, he's pretty much here to stay, and he'll just keep getting more popular.
I agree. Jason, you like that page?
I love that page.
Yeah. You don't get as far as Art Adams on the X-Men, that from kind of that time period. I mean, there's not a lot that ever hits the market. So it's always nice to see something, from that period.
Those are great pieces. Ryan, did you make a play at either one, or were you just an observer?
I was just an onlooker. It was it was really nice to watch. Like I'm glad that they exist, but I didn't even try.
That's most of the auctions these days with the market. It's a lot of watching.
Yeah, it's a lot of watching, and it's a lot of like, man, like I wish I would have held on to some of my pieces, from a few years ago.
You sound like Bill.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about it. Well, thank you, Ryan. Good. Those are two great selections. So let's see. We're going to go to the next topic. And Dave, I'm going to switch over to you as far as taking us off on topic number 2 this evening.
Are we doing topics or auctions or doing topics?
We're doing topics this time. So yeah, you can give us the spiel on why and when to post on CAF and when not to post on CAF might be more important, right?
Yeah, so there's a little bit of backstory on this one. So my topic, I can't remember how I typed it up, but it was kind of who, what, when, why, posting stuff to CAF. And I've been on a bit of a mission this year. I've got a few different circles of comic art friends that I run with, pretty much all online for the most part. And I've been somewhat notorious for hoarding comic art and not sharing it. A lot of times I'll share it like within a small group, and then in my mind it's like, oh yeah, I showed that, but a lot of times it wouldn't make it to CAF. And I think I was a member of CAF for years before I actually posted anything, but I was very active in the hobby and very active on CAF, but just for some reason I just didn't do it. And I went, I think in 2019, a couple good friends were prodding me and saying, you got to share more, you got to share more, you got to get stuff online. And so I, in 19, I was like, okay, I'm going to put one up every week, either stuff that I've got sitting on or stuff that I'll get new, kind of mix it in. And I was not successful in 19, and I wasn't successful in 20. I think I got maybe 20 pieces out each year. And so, my goal was, in 21, I'm going to do a piece a week. And so far, I'm on target. I think I hit like 49 pieces this year. And so I was thinking about, it, like, why don't I put stuff up, and some of it I can articulate, some of it I can't, and I was thinking about, well, why don't you put stuff up? Is it because you don't have a good image? Is it because, you want to take time and do a good write-up and you don't have the time? And I had a lot of, reasons that weren't really good reasons. And I know that one of the things with this whole COVID is, I've wanted to be more active in supporting CAF, you, Bill, since we've worked together on the site and everything. So I started thinking about it, and I'm just kind of curious, like, who does? Is there anybody out there that doesn't? I think most of us do share. Most of us have a CAF. Most of us put up. But if you don't, I'm just kind of curious why you don't put stuff up. And then some of the stuff, like I have some stuff that I'll put stuff up. I don't really have a whole lot of rhyme or reason to what I put up and when. Sometimes it's just, what do I have a scan handy, or is there something timely, or a theme or something going on? But it's really kind of random. And then I've got pieces that I don't put up, and I don't put them up. There are pieces I don't put up because I don't want somebody to try to buy it. I don't want to get that offer I can't refuse. And so there are some pieces that I'll keep down, for those kind of reasons. I know we've talked a little bit about the win, and I don't want to go there, but it's like, do you put something up right when you get it? Do you wait? Do you pull something out of a stack? Do you like to kind of have it and enjoy it for a while before you share it with everybody? I think that's something that I've kind of resonates with me. And then so why do you share? Do you share for community? Do you share for yourself? Do you use it as like a billboard or stuff to track your art? What are some kind of the motivations? And then specifically, why not? Why aren't you posting? And I've tried to do a lot of commenting too this year, as far as people that do post. And I try to always try to do a lot of thanking people for sharing. And I'm because it does mean a lot. I think it's really cool when you share art, even if it's not something I would ever consider buying. Just looking at a piece you enjoy. So that's kind of the who, what, when, why, that kind of thing. I'm kind of curious, for those of you out there, what do you share? What don't you share? Why? Do you hold back on stuff, or do you get it, you throw it online? What's everybody's approach to that?
Well, I can tell you mine. I only post when I have time more than anything else, and I don't worry about write-ups. But as everybody, I think I'd sat on stuff for almost a year and then finally posted it all. But I liked, I mean, there was where was it? Where Carlos Mo had said, I have a commission theme I don't want copied till it was done. So Carlos is not going to post his things on CAF. I think there's lots of reasons why people choose to keep things off CAF. Yeah,
and I don't think there's a right or wrong reason. It's just more of a curiosity to me than anything. And I like the comments too. I think that you've seen kind of a surge in comments on CAF. At least I have, not just on my stuff, but on other people's stuff. Maybe that's all because of Marcus. He's kind of motivates me to put comments out there. But yeah,
that's true. I think a lot of people do keep from posting on CAF just because they don't like to get offers. I mean, that's usually the number one thing that I get from people when I'm emailing them privately.
I hate when people say that. I mean,
right.
I post everything. The whole point of it is to share, right? If you can't say no to an offer, then you don't love the piece enough. If you don't want to be bothered by an email, I mean, I get more spam emails in my regular email from every place I've ever shopped in my life. Like, I'd rather see an email with someone telling me they like my page, and trying to throw money at me. I use it. Somebody said, like, I try to post everything. There's stuff that's not up yet, but it's just more of a time than anything else. But my goal is to have everything on CAF. I want someone to know where the page from X-Men 390 exists. If they're looking for it, at least they know where it is, right? And maybe they have something I want more than that page from X-Men 390, and we can work out a trade. But if it's stuck in a portfolio in my closet, they'll never be able to approach me for that, right? I'm sorry to overtake it. I'm really passionate about that because I don't believe in the fresh to market thing, right?
Yeah, I don't either. Yeah.
You put a John Byrne page up. I don't care if it's been around on CAF for 30 years or no one's ever seen it. It's going to go for $50,000 at this point or whatever it is. I just put it all up there. Let it hang out and see what happens. If you don't want to, ignore an email if that's the problem. I'm just very passionate about this. I think that the hobby is about sharing, and I want to know where the art is. Where is it all?
Right.
I
Well,
don't know, Jason, for sure. I actually, when people email me, I'm flattered that I felt like and I also feel a little bit more secure because it's good to know that your collection is liquid if you ever need it. And so I think that in itself, just I think it's a good thing. Second, I actually do remember a very pivotal moment of when I started uploading more frequently. Was actually last year around, I think it was June or July. But I have a bunch of friends who's like in the crypto world who has been doing NFTs for like years now. And one of them asked me, hey, a comic book artist may be interested in doing a gallery or doing this kickoff in the metaverse. They're building a new building and they want a comic book artist. So I introduced them to Sean Chen, and Sean gave them a collection to kind of drop in that world. And when I looked around, I was like, this is pretty cool, man. The next generation of kind of art collectors are in this digital space. So why not just embrace CAF? Because CAF, in a way, is like a couple steps ahead of it. It's a reflection of what we own digitally. But I think that's kind of what got me going. Oh, this is just a gallery. And so I just started uploading. And there's a very specific time that I upload this. I phone scan everything. I know it's not the most popular way, but I use this app called Scannable, and I just scan everything, and I'll name them, and I'll put them in albums on my kind of photo drive. And then I always do it before I go to bed. And so if I'm I can't go to sleep, my go-to is I'll upload into my CAF gallery, and then that after a while it gets it's on the small screen, and you're kind of really working at it, and then you do get tired, and then so I put it down and fall asleep. So I literally do it right before I go to bed.
Well, that's the first. I've never heard that before.
On my phone too. So
I know, Jason. I appreciate your passion, and I generally tend to agree with your approach. And I've seen some comments in there. I don't have any problem saying no to somebody trying to buy it. It's not because I think it's, and I don't think I really completely understand why on some of this stuff. But I think some of it is I don't want to even have the idea of selling certain pieces, And so somebody reaches out to me and starts talking about a sale, and I've been pestered on stuff before, and I don't have a problem saying no. But sometimes it's just, you don't want to deal with it. But no, I get it. Everything I have will eventually make it online. I'm going to, probably hit 60, 70 pieces this year. And probably most of them are stuff that I had before the year started. But yeah, I think it's, I appreciate your passion. I tend to agree that art's meant to be shared. And yeah, I'm trying to get there myself.
I'm just really lazy.
There's a host of reasons. That's what I was kind of curious is what are some of the reasons? And
yeah, that's I've had an account for a few years now. It's just because I love it. I love just going on there. That's how I kill time. It's just I'll search random characters and just see what's out there. And this year I actually built a couple albums to actually move some pieces to sell some stuff. And I was like, man, I really should start building some albums. And I've been thinking about it. And I've kind of started to organize some of my stuff, and then I just forget about it. And I'll get to it though. Like I'm actually good. I'm to the point now that I want to do it. I just haven't done it yet.
I think that's something I came to a couple years ago too. Is I really kind of thought, you know what, I really need to start doing a better job of.
Yeah.
So I dedicate, once the weekend's done, I start thinking about, all right, what am I going to put up this week? Am I going to do one? Am I going to do more than one? I'm going to have to go back and watch the Dino interview that you did, Bill, because Dino, he kind of gave an explanation of some stuff, and I wanted to watch it before the show to get it fresh, but it's been so long I can't remember. But it was kind of the gist of it was kind of like Rainy Day, having some stuff back that maybe you aren't buying a lot of art. Maybe you're going through a period where you're not, active. Maybe you haven't quit the hobby, but maybe you're not going to shows. Maybe you've just kind of like are on the sideline for a while, and it's nice to still have some stuff to post and remain part of the community in a way of, posting, sharing, getting comments, those kind of things. And that kind of resonated with me too. I was like, oh, I really hadn't thought of that, but that does make sense, because I have gone through stretches where I'm more active than not in the last, 7-8 years. And so that was probably something that I really wasn't thinking about, but when I heard it, I said, yeah, that makes sense to me. And I just also wanted to say, I've seen a couple comments from Fred. I'm not ignoring you, Fred. Thank you. I'm not logged into this thing, Bill, so I don't know. I don't know how to do comments. So
well, yeah, unfortunately, only I can comment. I don't know. It's one of the not great features of the studio is that the guests can't comment. So yeah, I didn't know if you wanted me to bring. I knew Fred was kind of needling you about.
Oh yeah, he offered me when we were talking about the New Jersey show, and he made a nice post. But yeah, I pretty much ignore that comment, but I send him those kind of comments as well too. So it's all good fun.
Right, and Dino did say he wants to stay active longer than his buying years, and it's true. I mean, I get it, and the thing is, if and everybody knows, I recently posted about a month and a half ago, literally like 40 pieces that I'd collected over the last year, and I just finally had a weekend of a moment to scan them all. And I just did them all at once, and I kind of regretted it after I was done because I thought the same thing. It would have been better to just kind of meter them out slowly. And so I did find one page I forgot to scan today.
I love that Iron Man page that you posted, Bill. That was a beauty. Loved that one.
No, thanks. That was probably one of my favorite pickups in the last few months too. Yeah. But and Michael here also said I didn't post for the first 7 years I collected because I didn't appreciate the community aspect of it until very recently. And I think that's and that's valid too, right? I mean, CAF was made originally because I wanted to see more artwork. There wasn't any site out there that allowed collectors to show off almost anything, right? We just didn't have it. A lot of people had personal sites, and so it was all about just sharing and enjoying the hobby. And that was its goal. But I think a lot of people, it's still today. People come to the site and they never, it's been out there 18 years and people didn't know about it. And I think they didn't quite understand what the camaraderie about the hobby and how it is all about sharing. And there is a great community around it. And I think these the live streams that we've been doing the last 16, 18 months have really kind of helped a lot of us. I mean, I've made more friends in the last 18 months in the hobby than I did in the first 18 years, practically, just because of taking that step, of doing these and hanging out with everybody more. And it's been a lot of fun, right?
Well, and do you think COVID has been very good in that aspect too, right? Like, I think of the amount of people I've met in this hobby because of the shutdowns and these online even like Zoom or like the Zoom calls that people have or the various Facebook groups that have shown up. I mean, it's been awesome. I mean, I've met so many people that I never would have met otherwise. Mm-hmm. And CAF's a great place for that because I mean, there's people that I've seen post that even a couple of years ago that I've actually met at some point now on one of these calls or in the maybe they posted in the sketch group or something like that. And I'm like, oh, so I kind of put like a face and like a voice to like a collection, and it's actually been really, really cool. Yeah,
no, I agree. I think it's been, I was always sort of envious of the Facebook groups and everything because there's all that interaction that was happening over there, and then people would just come to CAF as a gallery, and it's a big portfolio for everybody to look through. But I think that having started doing these chats and the interview shows and all that, it's really kind of tied it all together better, right? Because you can't have this, you don't have this interaction on Facebook, and you certainly don't have this interaction on CAF. So we've kind of like bridged the gap between what was happening over there and what's happening over on CAF, and it's made it, for me, it's made it the whole hobby so much more fun, and being able to put a face to a CAF gallery name and their collection has just been the best part of the last 16 months. And it's true. If COVID hadn't happened, I don't think I would have taken the time to do these sorts of things. So I guess so there's a silver lining in that, I guess. But yeah, I think I for me, I felt the hobby was fractured up until the point when we started doing these things. And we've taken a little bit of a turn on Dave's topic here, but
no, it's all good.
But that was an important thing that I think that's happened since COVID.
Bill, it was always fractured, because if you think about the mediums for communication, you have people on CGC boards that have made up handles, right?
Right.
Then you have CAF galleries that some it's like, Call C or J-Bo or J Giant, whatever they make up there. Then you got people posted on Facebook under their real name, right? So half the time I'm trying to figure out who's who when I'm talking to people, like by their art. Like, okay, I saw them post this page here, trying to connect the dots to see who it is. So, I think Dave said it, or Ryan said it, putting a face with a name, with a piece of art, with a collection is really another boon for what you're doing here. It's amazing.
But it accentuated things a lot, because other than that, we had the shows and everything. But without the shows, I mean, this is just it. I don't know. Again, I'm just very happy that we've done it, and I think I can't wait to get out and talk to people in person. I mean, that'll never replace what we're doing here, but it has certainly, I think, tied things together better, because I was so frustrated about 2 years ago, just watching the social side of the hobby taking place on Facebook and Instagram and all these other places, and we didn't have a foothold in any of that, really, just because I wasn't taking the time and I didn't really know how to go about it. So yeah, thumbs up to everybody who's helped make that happen, because it certainly wasn't just me. It's all the hundreds of people that have taken the time to be a part of these shows and these collector roundtables that we've been doing. So
I know I pay a lot more attention to, like, popular pieces of art. I've found galleries that I wouldn't have followed before, and I comment a lot, and and I find that I've met some folks either in person or online. So I try to be a lot more active in the community and on CAF. There's nothing better than seeing a collector brought out of a black hole. Who was the guy that started a couple years ago? Bill something. He's got an epic collection, and he was just sitting on a lot of his stuff. And I have no idea why he wasn't posting, but it's amazing. And every time I see his name, I know it's an epic piece. So it's like I'm going to find a black hole collector and bring him into the light. That's my next goal, is to find one. Yeah.
Very, very nice. All right, so we kind of went off topic a little bit, Dave, but it was a good topic to talk about. I mean, it's always something that, and people should know, it's okay not to post everything on CAF if you don't want to. We're not. It's certainly not an obligation as a collector to the site at all. I mean, if there's pieces you don't want to show, you don't have to. So, all right. So, Jason, I'm actually going to do your 2 auction selections next. So let me get those.
And while you're pulling it up, it looks like West was the one that got Bill J to come in.
Yeah. Bill J's collections.
That's awesome. Good job, West.
Okay, so I really like the change up for the art we were picking, to pick stuff that I found interesting in the auctions recently. I mentioned this to Bill about his recaps on these auctions. I think it's great to kind of focus in on different pieces rather than just what the most expensive stuff is. And this piece here that I picked is a page from X-Men. I don't know. I think it's 300 or something, Bill, right? I don't remember off the top of my head, but it's a Brandon Peterson piece. And it went for a fair amount of money, more than I expected it to go. It went close to $3,000. And it kind of made me start to think that there are so many X-Men fans out there that we're no longer – a lot of X-Men fans are priced out of the Jim Lee, Portaccio, John Romita, and we're starting to look deeper and heavier at the Brandon Petersons and the Ron Garneys and the Kuberts are getting super hot too. It's pulling all of the X-Men art up. So if you are an X-Men fan, now is the time to kind of jump on the Brandon Petersons, the Richard Bennett's, the Garneys, the Jackson Geist, the different artists that are out there before these pieces become unattainable too. I just thought it was a great splash, and if you're familiar with Peterson, he came in and took over to look like Jim Lee. So just don't be discouraged if you can't afford a Jim Lee splash. You can get a beautiful Peterson splash like this for $2,800 or whatever it was.
Yeah, it was $2,880 over on Heritage.
Did you win it, Jason?
I did not. I probably should have after hearing myself talk about it.
Yeah, you talked it up.
You've talked yourself into the next Brandon Peterson page from X-Men 298.
Or go make an offer.
I have a decent Peterson example already, so that's probably why I didn't go as far as I should.
All right. Well, very good choice. Let's look at your second one.
The second one I picked is an Invincible cover. And I picked this one because I wanted to kind of – well, first of all, I love the show. I love the art. Otley's fantastic. I bought a couple pieces myself after watching the show and then going back and reading the books. But I wanted to kind of show the pitfalls of chasing these pieces that are artificially hot from media stuff. This cover wound up going for, I think, $5,600, and I thought that was fairly reasonable. But last month, when the show first came out, there was a couple covers in Comic Link that went for over $9,000. So the volatility of the artwork that's tied into TV shows can really be a detriment to going after it. So I just I like the piece. I thought this one was reasonable, but I wanted to point it out because I've seen some other stuff kind of inflated from the TV relations, and I see people on some of the claim show always talking about this is coming on, this channel, this is coming on that channel. Try to get into the art before the TV shows happen because it becomes a really volatile market once it does happen.
I would agree with you there, because I can tell you that I don't think the films or the TV shows really influence my purchasing decisions on it, but I know that it plays a part in it, and it certainly plays a part in those who price artwork, when those characters are going to be in a film, right? So, but like you said, I mean, at auction, that's where you can really see the volatility, right? Where some pieces, that one went for $5,600. And you're right. I saw other ones had gone for over $9,000 before that. So yeah, and that's as good as any of the covers that sold for more too. I mean, I actually like that image a lot.
That was a strong one too. That was the point I was showing. I think I haven't watched the show yet, but Why the Last Man Standing hasn't been getting the greatest reviews, and those pages have been crazy at auction for the last few months. Where do they wind up if this show bombs? That's kind of a scary world, right?
Yeah. I haven't seen it yet. I don't have Hulu, so I'll probably have to wait until there's another way to watch it. But yeah, what are you going to do? Like you said, it's still going to influence things a little bit. All right, so let's see. I've got my third topic of the evening. Ryan, you get to take us on our third topic.
All right, cool. So I was having a hard time coming up with the topic. I was like, man, I don't really know what to go with. And then we came up with trying to balance. For me, like I'm still a very avid comic book reader. I read weekly. I collect a lot of books a month, but I also buy a lot of art. So trying to balance almost like the full collecting experience, we'll call it. Now, for me, I don't have a local comic store anymore. They closed down about 13, 14 years ago. So I switched over to online ordering. I use DCBS for the pre-orders and whatnot. I get about probably between 30 and 40 books a month. Shipped. I get them shipped weekly. So, some weeks I'll have 15 show up. Sometimes I have 5 or 6. It is what it is. And so I spend maybe about $250, $300 on just new books. Not including, say, the modern market where we're buying variant covers, we're buying all the random ones that maybe I didn't order but I decided I wanted. So I'm probably safely at $500. We'll say $500 a month on comics, just the books. Now, obviously, there's the art part of things, where it's like we have all the with the COVID times, the online sketch ops, the conventions coming back now, just whether it be a facilitator ops like a Clan McDonald type of deal or a 4C type of deal, or even just artists posting in the sketch groups, or me just going around CAF and being like, "Ooh, I need this Moon Knight page, and I need this Young Justice page." But so I'm probably not nothing too crazy, but there's probably a couple $1,000 there. So to me, I was just trying to figure out, like, man, like, how does everybody balance? Like, if you're into other things, and that's including. I know you mentioned, Dave, you mentioned that you used to collect like the statues and things like that. And those get pricey. They're beautiful, but I mean, those get really expensive. So did you just decide to stop buying other things to focus on the art, or did you still, I don't know, just make a budget, a monthly budget, a yearly budget, quarterly budget?
I'm happy to answer. I don't know if you want to keep going, Ryan.
Yeah. I have a couple. It's gonna be more interactive. I got a couple questions because I think it's super interesting to see what other people do.
I mean, I think everybody that collects art has gone through this at some point, because I don't know a whole lot of people that just started with comic art, because most people, you have a background. You read the comics, so you bought the comics, you bought memorabilia, you bought something. For me, I was like everybody else. I had my healthy LCS stack I would get. I don't do that anymore. I get a few books that I read, and then I read on suggestion. I go back and get trades or pick up runs on suggestion. So I don't buy a whole lot new anymore. But yeah, I've kind of like stepped my collection. It's like from comics, and then I cut back, and then I found statues. Quite a while ago, and I had a whole room full of them. And once I filled the room, I pretty much, I had already started to kind of like slow down, because I said, if it's going to sit in a box, then I'm not going to buy it. I want to be able to see it and enjoy it and look at it. So that was kind of a self-discipline. But when I found art, I had to make the call. I couldn't balance statues and art. I still dabble in everything that I've done before art. I still dabble in it, but more from a curiosity, or something that comes along. Like I bought a statue last year that came along, just blew me away. I'm like, I'm moving. I'm gonna have more room again, so I want that. But it was out of the ordinary. But yeah, I've had to trade one for the other. I'm not able to do what you describe, to be heavily into more than one thing. I've just had to like put the other things in the margins. I don't ever quit, but like if we do this, you do this again in like 3 months, Bill, I'll have a whole wall full of the statues will be unpacked, and I could show them if you want. They're all still packed up.
Oh, you froze again.
I've kept most of them. I sold a few off because I got offers I couldn't refuse. But yeah, I still have 95% of them, and a day will come where I'll start to turn them into comic art, because I want that more. But yeah, as far as new acquisition, I just have to focus. I've learned how to be a very focused collector, even with comic art. I love the Hulk. It's my favorite character. It's my favorite visual subject matter. But I buy other stuff too. But I just have to do it in the margins. It's like, it just has to be something that's just a little bit, because if I don't focus, it's like squirrel, and I'm just, grabbing every shiny object that comes along. And I've collected for the better part of my life, and I've learned that the hard way. I've got a bunch of stuff that meant something in that moment, but the next week it didn't. And I'm just trying to learn to say, I try to look at everything I buy as like, if I don't buy that, am I going to be more upset if I don't buy it, or am I going to be more upset if I buy it and it was purely an impulse? And if I can't stomach the idea of not buying something and it's not available, then I buy it. But that's just kind of the way I approach it. Yeah, that's me.
Oh, that's great.
And I was reading in the chat, a lot of people have switched from buying comics to going just straight digital comics because it doesn't cost as much, and they still get the stories.
Yeah, and they're and the digital's catching up a little bit now too. I don't think you have to wait nearly as long to get the digital versions.
Mm-hmm.
You know, with the things like the Marvel Unlimiteds, because it's one of the things like I've thought about in the balance too. But I'm not quite there. I still love having like the floppy in my hand. Like I like you know sitting in my chair, you know, with like a glove on so I don't rip the pages. But and then the one thing I've found out that I've been doing is I've been doing a good job. I think like I like to think I'm doing a good job of really balancing by selling one to pay off others, which I never used to. Like say with art specifically, I never used to sell comic art. And then it got to the point that, before I had my house, before I had my room, you know, I had it all in portfolios. Everything was in nice boxes and, you know, labeled and just ready to display. Then after I had the room to display it, all of a sudden I had boxes full of stuff that wasn't displayed. And I'm like, oh, maybe I don't need this anymore. So then I started buying higher end comic books, and it was a great way of funding those comics was selling some of this old art. You know, the old Silver Age, like, you know, like the X-Men ones, the Hulk 181s, the Werewolf by Nights, the books like that. But now it's funny because now that I have all the books that I've wanted to get, I've gone the opposite direction. Now I was like, well, like we talked earlier, I'm going to New York Comic Con in a couple of weeks. I'm like, all right, well, there's a couple guys here. If I have a chance, I'm going to need some money. So now I'm going through my collection and selling off books to pay for potential art.
That's something I wish I was better at. I tend to have a one-way collection.
It's honestly, I think COVID has made me a much better businessman in that aspect. I'll say COVID, and then having two little kids that I still have, you know, Minecraft to pay for. So.
And then it'll be college, not too far down the road.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that might be the time that you, if we zoom back in, like there's no more toys hanging up here. There's no more art on the walls.
Yeah, we come back. We rejoin this conversation 10 years from now, and yeah, your walls are bare.
Yeah,
cobwebs in the ceiling. No,
I'm even more gray, and then even my beard went bald. It'll be fine.
Oh, that would be a sad day. But I get you on that one. I mean, I think I can say that I haven't met many collectors who are very good at, or you know, I'm more like Dave. I'd say once you get into the art, it's hard to kind of look back. And most people tend to, you know, sell off their comic collections because not only is it hard to focus on both, but once you become passionate about collecting original art, it's, you know, you just want more of it, and your comics become, you know, a chip that helps you get that next piece of art that you want. I mean, I think the conversation with Kavi was a really good one where that we had a few weeks back, the interview with him where he talked about that. So it's yeah, it's I think being able to have two or more focuses of on collectibles is very challenging. I mean, unless you're a dealer and you have to be so focused on multiple possibilities out there, I think once we hit art, I mean, that's it for most of us.
Well, Bill, for the most part, I've cut back on comics, but I'll go to my local comic store like once a month and just thumb through, pick up random books and look through, because that's how I find pages I want of current art, right? Like,
right.
That's how I'll look through the X-Men book. I can't keep up with reading X-Men anymore. I tried again a couple of years ago, and it just wound up stacking up and not getting read. But that's how I find artists I like now, and that's how I find pages I want to hunt down and look for. So I agree with you that once you're into comic art, you kind of can't do everything, or at least I can't. But if you want to stay relevant and look at new art and be in the know as to what's coming or what's out there, you kind of got to look at the medium. So that's how I balance it. Going back to the original question, I don't. I may pick up a book, read it, and then want to hunt down the issues before or keep up with it for a couple months after that, because I do read what I buy, but I'm also using it as shopper guide for art.
Well, especially now where there's so much new talent coming that you may never have seen, because they might not be guys that offer sketch, ops or anything like that, and all of a sudden they just show up in, like you said, it's just a random X-Men book, and you're like, wait a second, who is this? And and it'll still be affordable at this point. Like you're not going to be paying, Cubert prices. Hopefully,
Exactly. Depends on who reps them.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm opposite of Jason. I actually now I'm really trying to shuffle through my, like, I think I have about 60 boxes, 10 of each, 10 of which are long boxes of comics, just packed. And I've been trying to send them off to CGC, but it's taking so long to get them back to sale. It's just really slowing down. So I have about 10 boxes here, and then the rest of my mother's garage. But the only comics I do buy now is actually the ones I own the art of. And so what I typically find myself doing is I'll find the art, or on one of the press articles, oh wow, that artist is working on this, and I'll end up buying, like, before I buy the art, I'll go read the issue, and if I connect with the story, I'll buy the art, and then I'll also buy the issue. And so that's been kind of my procurement process.
It makes sense. I saw when Marcus had said, "Don't you buy comics of art you just bought?" Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, I do the same.
So I was reading a lot of comments on that, but no, I get it, and I don't buy comics as often as I used to. Certainly since COVID started, I haven't been out to the comic shops like I was prior to that. I definitely need to get back in that habit again. But and I can honestly say I haven't read a digital comic. I've refrained from going down that path, although I should. I mean, for research purposes, I think but I've never had one on the screen. I've just never got into it. I've backed a few things and gotten them, and I never even looked at them. So that is my path.
That's a whole different topic. I mean, we start talking about digital books and things. Now we're into a whole different.
Right. No, I know. I'm sorry.
No,
but,
you're right. You're right.
But I hear you on that one, though. It would be, I think it'd be great if you could. Clearly, you've been able to juggle it. Being able to, if you're reading and buying 30 to 40 comics every month. I mean, that's pretty impressive. It really is. I mean, but that's your passion, right? So the comics are still as important to you as the art is. So I mean, that's.
I'll have to hit you up, Ron.
You've got to stick to a budget, because that's what you were talking about earlier. How do you budget it, right? Well, you have to really have a lot of. You got to be able to pace yourself properly, so you can still afford as many comics as you want each month, as well as the artwork you want to buy.
I'll hit you up, Ryan, because I have friends that still collect like that, and I always every time I run into them, like, what have you read in the last 3 months that I have to read? And so I kind of look like I get around buying all those floppies for the stuff either that I don't enjoy or I never get around to reading, and that's why I quit buying so many floppies, because I just lost the time to read it all. But I'm always looking for recommendations, and then it's usually halfway done, and I'll just go pick up the trade or maybe read it online or something like that. But yeah, that's how I stay plugged in.
Yeah, anytime. I'm always available to talk about
it.
All right, very nice. Good topic, Ryan. Let's see. Gonna go with Dave on your art choices. Now,
all right. So my two pieces are a piece I knew I wanted and a piece I didn't know I wanted until I saw it. So, all right.
Nice.
So there's the piece I wanted. This one's been talked to death. So, but I know this was. I think. It's probably been longer than I think, but several years ago. I was looking at my collection and I said, you know what? I'd really like to have a piece of Dale Keown art with the Hulk, with the big machine gun, the big gun with the bullets across his chest, the black shirt. And so I went out to find one, and I couldn't. I hit up all the usual suspects. Everybody I knew was a Keown Hulk fan, collector. And I wasn't even necessarily looking for the cover. This would have been the ideal piece, but I was looking for an interior. There were some nice interiors that have similar imagery, and I looked pretty hard. I asked a lot of people, and I couldn't find anything or shake anything out. And So when I saw this hit the auction, I'm like, yeah, that ship sailed for me. If I would have got it when I was looking, I would have got it. I would have been able to get it. But when I saw it hit, I think it was in a collector Facebook chat, and I think it hit to 100, and I think it's probably going to be closer to 100. And it just had that feel to it based on the early bidding, and so I'm sure this one was being talked about in a lot of collector groups and online. But yeah, I just love it. I didn't find the piece that I wanted, and that ship has sailed. I have some really good Keown art, so I can't complain. But yeah, this is one that checked all the boxes for me. I just love this piece. So
That's amazing, and like you said, it went for $93,888.
yeah, and once it jumped so fast so early, I just knew it was gonna go high. I wasn't sure exactly where, but it was pretty close. Anybody else, you think anything other than this was an insane result? Lucky for the consigner?
That's but you kind of hit it right on the head, right? Because like for the era of the Hulk, that is literally the perfect piece.
Yeah. And what's funny is, I was reading, this is when I was still buying floppies on a regular basis. And I remember, a lot of people were really critical, the Hulk doesn't need a gun, and this is silly. And, but the writing and art was so good. It stood the test of time, and it's just only grown its fan base, as far as the stuff in trade. But yeah, this was, a piece like this would have been really nice to be able to snag 7-8 years ago, whenever. I can't remember how long ago it was, but long enough ago that it would have been a different category of price altogether.
Yeah, well, it's like so 90s too that it's
Mhm.
the perfect for the time, but also for the market right now. Like it was,
Yeah.
you just knew it was going to explode.
Yeah. I might have to hit up a couple of the people that I hit up saying, so when I asked, did you have it and just didn't want to tell me? Or not that it matters. Everybody, like we said before, everybody has a right to keep stuff quiet. But yeah, I was disappointed when I couldn't pull it out back then, and even more so seeing what it went for now. All right.
All right. And your second artwork?
All right, so this is one, I didn't have on my radar, and I'll just say right off the beginning, I did not win this. I didn't even really go for it. With Heritage, I just tend to wait till the end, and usually you kind of can tell where it's going to go on the closing day. But this is a piece that I remember well, because it was one of those handouts that was done in my local newspaper, the Columbus Dispatch. And I remember this issue well, and there were lots of these copies floating around, because it was, they were, handouts. I think they were stuffed in one of the newspapers, probably a Sunday or something like that. And this one it appealed to me because it's, if you know me at all and you know my collection at all, just the bottom half of it is all having some South Spider-Man art. I don't have any, and so this was like, it checked both boxes. Like, wow, that would be really, really cool to have. But yeah, this is a piece I had never targeted. It had been so many years since I had opened the copy of this and looked at it. If I would have, I'm sure I would have said, oh wow, there's some stuff in there I might try to chase down. But then when this one popped up, it was like, oh wow, that's really cool. I wouldn't mind having that. So this one really appealed to me. Did anybody win it here? Dino, did you win this one?
That's a great piece.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think this one hit calf yet.
Yeah,
I could be wrong though.
It hasn't. Yeah. You would be alerting me really quickly if it did, because it's in my settings.
Well, a couple good pieces there. Thank you very much, Dave.
Yep.
All right, Carl, we get to switch to you with the fourth topic of the evening. So take us away.
Yeah, no, first of all, it looks like I won't be participating in the auction results. I feel like I was dragging my feet the last 24 hours and sharing posts with Bill. I had quite the interesting, entertaining experience this week, which I won't share, but it's definitely been let's say a blemish in my auction experience. But so I'll get into the topic. So it's interesting. This week, I think I probably wouldn't have gone through this week if not for this community right here, who basically has like stood right by me, giving me kind of all kinds of advice and reaching out individually just to like connect. And one of the big conversations I had was actually with Rob, where Rob was showing me his collection, talking about his logic through a very tight knit, cosmic Ghost Rider theme collection. And I had just like a huge revelation that, man, like I really need to look at my own, because over the last 4 or 5 years where I've been doing this, I'm like all over the place, kind of like what Dave was saying. I'm like a squirrel, right? And almost every year I kind of change themes, and then when I look back, I'm like, oh man, like it's all over the place. But I think one of the mottos, my wife is like a minimalist while I'm like the biggest hoarder. So if you go in my house, there's like a museum everywhere, but when you walk in my office, it's like the tornado hit a comic book shop. And so
I love it, comic tornado. That sounds awesome.
so it's hilarious. So I think I start thinking about like, what sparks joy. So I don't know if you guys seen that Marie Kondo show on Netflix, and one of the things she talks about is, when you look at something, what sparks joy. And so I think I have it down. So within kind of my world of art collecting, there's been, I think, 3 areas. I definitely love Magic the Gathering art, because I feel like every time I bring something into my collection, it goes on my wall. And then I also love covers, and covers always just has this iconic feel when it goes on the wall, and I always feel like I have a place for it. But one thing I notice is within my portfolios, I don't tend to flip through my portfolios as regularly as I want to, unless it's a full issue. And the full issue collecting really didn't start till this year, where I did look at a number. I think over the last year, I just found out that there were full issues available, and then hearing some of like Felix's podcast, him talking to Albert about how they were offered full issues in the past. I'm like, whoa, that's crazy. Of like Watchmen full issues, like what? And so it made me think, man, like I would love to, see that. And so I started reaching out to different dealers and say, hey, like this, got on the map for some of these full issue requests. And I saw several, but then it wasn't until this one issue came out that really sucked me in, and this was Thor 14. It was Donny Cates and Nick Klein's storyline of Prey, which was Donald Blake coming, just wreaking havoc on these over this course of the next several issues. So I thought it'd be cool to do a little show and tell, but this was my very first full issue that happened this year, and this wasn't the official cover, but it was the variant cover that Nick Klein created. And actually, I want to point that out, where I'm realizing a lot of dealers actually don't always sell the full issue with the cover. So to me, it's kind of weird, because I feel like without the full issue, it's not really the cover. And I think why it brings a lot of joy is because, I love reading comics. And actually, speaking of reading comics, I read mostly digitally now. But I felt like as I looked at these full issues, I was able to kind of reread the comic in a whole new light. Knowing that it was like the final stance of Donald Blake facing everybody. And then Thor showed up in this destroyer costume. And there's this DPS that just, it's ridiculous, where he just punches him in the face. And you're actually able to like remember the story as you're talking through it. And I almost felt like even before I got to read the comic, I already understood what Donnie and Nick was trying to do. And even this part, where, the hammer flies away, and then Mr. Bittery Bill shows up and does this thing. And so, man, like going over the issue, I've literally gone through this like probably like 20 times, rereading the story over and over again, and Thor coming out of the destroyer armor. Like these moments that are captured in this. And the other thing I loved about this issue was a lot of comics would take you through, a series of time or days or whatever else. This issue was a 20, let's say a minute a page if you were staring at it. It almost felt like it was real time because of all the action that took place and the fighting that took place. and it didn't really slow down until towards the end, where I also felt like it was cool where Thor really grown up from like what you saw from like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, where he was this kind of lost guy finding his confidence. He is now King Thor. He is checking Odin, who's like deadbeat dad on this third child, and he really puts him in his place and really claims the throne. And so, yeah, ever since this issue came about, this is another cover, but this issue came about. Man, I was really hooked, and so I am like in this thought process of literally like going through a lot of my art. One of the recent decisions was I also got into comic book trading card art, like some of the stuff you see back here, and some of these actually already have been traded away and sold because I realized, okay, I just need to carve out stuff and just move them, and just to create more space for what I'm actually passionate about. So check back with me in a year. I hope I can stay on course, but I'm really trying to focus. But we thought it'd be really fun since I'm not showing anything from any of the auctions. It'd be kind of cool to get in this theme of I'll show you mine, you show me yours. So I think we have someone here on our chat currently that's gonna show one, and then I'll show you my next one after that.
Sure. So it's funny, Carl, you picked this topic because I actually just got my first complete issue at NJRCon, and I've been toying with the idea. I thought it was such a cool concept, like you said, to have a full book. I've been quietly looking at a few different modern things.
Did you buy a Hulk issue, Jason?
I didn't hear that, Dave. But
did you buy a Hulk issue?
No, I did not buy a Hulk issue. That's what I want.
Stay away from the Hulk art. Stay in X-Men.
Unlike, actually, there is a Hulk in it though, Dave. I'll show you. I'll see if I can get that splash when I show the book. But I had actually toyed with buying a complete story from Wolverine, Black, White, and Blood about 6 months ago. I unlike Carl, I don't want to change my whole collecting to just complete issues, so I wanted to find one that meant. So what I actually wound up finding is I reached out to Salvador Roca's rep about covers, and he told me he had a few of the Extreme X-Men books from back in 2002 that he had the covers, but he would only sell them with the complete issue. So this is actually Extreme X-Men 12 from 2002, and it's all LaRocca. It's 100% pencils. It was published from pencils, and I got the cover. That was one thing I wanted. It's a nice cover of Storm and an alien that was in the story. But like Carl said, it's just incredible to have the full story with all the splashes and all the pages. And why I chose this is because as an X-Men fan, I wanted it. It's written by Chris Claremont. So I wanted to own an X-Men book that was, this is a DPS, so it's both sides. I wanted to own an X-Men book by Claremont. Now, obviously, the stuff that's most nostalgic to me is probably not together or not in my price range. But I thought this was just such a perfect fit. Claremont X-Men, LaRocca's an artist I like. It's not brand new, and it cost me less than the people are asking for the complete books now. So I just thought it was such a perfect fit. And there's one cool thing that I'm going to try to find in here to show everyone that I was amazed when I found it. Bear with 1 second. So LaRocca actually redid this splash. He must not have liked the way it came out the first time, and he actually redid the whole page. And I even have the unpublished splash that came with the book, with the whole issue. So I just thought that was so cool to kind of see the process. And for Dave, this is a panel. You can see it there. Hulk, Wolverine, Sabretooth. They were actually in this half a splash here. So we did get a Hulk in there too. That's nice my page. That's so my one complete issue. I own a Claremont written complete X-Men issue, and I could not be happier about it.
Congratulations, Jason.
Yeah, if you post that issue to the CAF, I'm going to ask to buy that page.
You ask me every day. I won't get offended.
Just the page, though.
Just the page.
Just the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
I
can
mean,
ask.
it's awesome, Jason. I mean, like, yeah, I think that in itself was so cool that there was like a possibility to bring something almost 20 years old back in your hands, and I think that I can't imagine what that feeling is like.
I couldn't believe he still had them together. I was like, what? You have complete.
So I also I unfortunately couldn't get it together for show and tell, but I do have a complete issue as well. Happy to share it at another time if able, but it's issue Hulk 632, Paul Pelletier, Heart of the Monster, and I didn't buy it complete. I bought one page, I think in 2012. And it was my favorite page in the book. It was the big splash. It's been printed quite a few times. Fell in love with it. Was lucky enough to get the first request to buy it. And I never had any designs on buying the whole book or any whole book, but I met Paul Pelletier in 2015 and became friends with him. And through the course of talking, of course, I'm going to say, hey, do you have any more Hulk art? And he said, yeah, I do. And so I found out he had quite a few of the pages from that issue, and that was, one of my favorites. So, we ended up working out a deal where I bought a bunch of them, and I said, hey, if you could just give me first shot, and at the rest of them, so I think over 3 or 4 purchases, I was able to knock it down to, I think, two pages were in the wild. I think, I can't remember. I might have traded one with Fred. I know it was a fellow collector, and then I ended up trading for the last one as well. So I ended up doing a couple trades to finish it out. But yeah, it's a really cool. I want to do something really nice to frame it up. And I know there's been a few people that have done some really cool stuff, so I'm trying to decide how I want to do with it. Jason, do you have any plans for yours? You going to put it in a book? You have anything unique? I think that's one of the things that I'm trying to do is, kind of, display it some way that really
It's so, I don't know. Right now, it's just all in that portfolio. I'm just happy to kind of have it.
Yeah, it's real new for you. Absolutely. That's kind of the way I was for a while. But then I thought, you know what? I've seen some people do some really cool stuff, and.
Yeah.
I think about that too, but I think I'm pretty happy being portfolio for now. And with that said, I'll also share a second one that I got this year, which I guess I've kind of been going crazy. This is actually crossover number 3. Speaking of Donny Cates, and I just love a lot of the stories, and I think there's something about his collaboration with the artist that's in this circle that he just does a great job with. And why this issue? So I don't know about you guys, but like crossover was super, super hyped up, but it started really slow as a story. But this was a really, monument, like a very like key issue for me that jumped out because, as you guys know, like there was all kinds of buzz across what crossover actually meant, and so there was a lot of people speculating that it'd be, oh yeah, Marvel crossover, DC crossover, whatever it is. But we were all kind of waiting for that, right? Because it's this world where comic book world merges with the real world. And so this issue, not only did it identify a lot of the key plot points, it also was the appearance of one of my personal favorite books. And the big jump was this little number one is this Gundam character that shows up coming out of this and wrecking house. And Jeff Shaw has actually been one of my favorite artists of all times. And I've collected a lot of his work leading up to this. And so this issue was just perfect when Dr. Black shows up and introduces himself as one of the Paybacks. And then the van pulls up and the rear door opens up and the Paybacks straight up shows up in this book. And Paybacks is actually one of my favorite books out there. And then at the end, even Madman shows up. So I felt like this was such a pivotal moment in the crossover series that that fed into my collection already, because behind this and a whole different portfolio, I also had other crossover pages, but I also have a bunch of Payback pages. I actually got a lot of them, and this DPS specifically, actually, just to attest to the kind of community you've built, is a community member, Jason, reached out to me and says, "Man, I see that you love the payback, and I have this DPS. Give me your address. I'm gonna ship it to you." He literally just shipped it to me, and no strings attached, and basically said it belonged in my collection. So I owe Jason one whenever that day comes. But it just showed that, man, like, it really kind of brought me closer to the community in a big way. And so, yeah, it's funny. I actually have, from what Felix is probably the biggest collection of paybacks pages. And I haven't, I don't know if it's crossed my mind to try to assemble full issues, but I think if there was one book series that I would try to do that with, would probably be the paybacks. But I'm not mentally there yet. But with that said,
hey, Carl, there's a question in the chat. I think ML was asking about that. Yeah,
I pulled it up. Carl, what size are the pages in the portfolio?
Oh yeah, let me see right now. I think I gotta pull up this side. I'm not sure. I think it's let me see on 14. I'm gonna guess is 12 by 18. I'm gonna guess. Or 14, but I'll look it up. But let me do this real quick before I look it up. Is we were talking about a lot about full issues, and within our little chat group, I think there was a key full issue that showed up in recent days, and even the way it was presented was so impressive. We couldn't help but invite a very special guest today to join us on this chat to kind of close us out by blessing us with his experience of this full issue. So with that said, ladies and gentlemen, meet Trad Daddy.
Good evening, Trad Daddy. Oh, you're muted.
Oh.
Good evening.
And well dressed this evening.
Oh, thank you. I like to dress my pages well and myself poorly.
Awesome.
Good evening, Mikhail. Nice to see you.
Yeah, I was so thrilled to hear Carl talking about complete issues and to see that everybody's kind of considering them or thinking about them as a way forward or as a particular showpiece in your collection or something that really means a lot to you. Dave, I have more than half of a Hulk book that I'm putting together. Sorry to say.
We need to talk. I'm either going to be your best friend or your worst enemy, depending on if we're going for the same.
No, I don't think it's anything that you would be after.
I would love to help you on your quest, so let me know later.
But yeah, I think everyone hopefully knows that I've really enjoyed putting these together and figuring out how to present them and how to enjoy them. So I thought I'd show you a couple of quick ways I've done it and see what people think, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
And I cannot see the chat, so if there's any questions or anything, just let me know. Right. So the first thing I noticed with Carl was the size of the pages and the portfolio. I love when an artist works 11 by 17 because it gives you a lot of options. But here's a case where the artist, Adam Hughes, works large. And so the portfolio itself is a 17 by 19. But then what Allison did was she put little frame pocket on the corners and has basically mounted the page onto the acid-free paper in the middle. So that keeps it in place, and then has put the pages in order, obviously. So that was a nice kind of solution to a kind of very tricky problem of how do you keep the pages together, centered, looking nice, with a nice presentation. And this is an issue that I'm currently putting together. Here, very problematic. The pages are hand cut. They're not a standard size. So, I'm going to have to figure out something about these. They're not held in place by anything other than just the friction. But when an artist works 11 by 17, it's amazing. Because then you can use a lot of these pre-made portfolios to hold them. And this is the one that James Pascoe did overlays for me. So you can read the story as go through it. And this is a particularly wordy story. But if you find a local bookbinder in your town, I think this is what most people like to see.
Oh, yeah.
It's all archival, handmade Himalayan paper.
Wow.
Gorgeous.
This was the first complete issue I bought. I was so thrilled to get it, receiving this in the mail, unpacking it, exploring it, learning about it. Like just it's luxurious to just have 20 pages of art to put a story together.
So how are the pages affixed to the this custom portfolio?
Each of these pages is actually a pocket. And this is a cutout, and the page slides in from the top.
Oh, beautiful.
That's cool.
It's only a friction connection. So,
Mikhail, how?
but again,
how long-
there was a bookbinding school in Boston. I visited them and met with a young person who works there, and we designed this and put this together, or she put it together.
How long did they have your art?
They did not ever have my art.
Okay.
That is definitely a concern.
Yeah.
And I made it very clear up front. She took all the sizes and put it together. And then, but now that I've moved and I don't have access to that person anymore, and I haven't found a replacement, I've actually tried to start doing it myself. And so this is basically a hard binder like this. And I covered on these pocket, these little corner protectors. I put the felt on, put the grommets in. I'm going to tie it up with like a leather. And this is for the Mike Perkins Swamp Thing number 6.
Wow, cool.
And then what's nice about this is that with a DPS, you can do it on both sides.
That's cool.
Which I haven't. I just haven't separated this one yet because it's still taped together. But this is one that I'm putting together. So yeah, it's a ton of fun.
And Mikhail, on this one here, I mean, you did you had Pascoe do the word balloons on the Allred book. Is that something that you'd consider with this Perkins book too, or was that just something special with the Allred book for you?
That was something that I mean, that story really benefits from having the words visible to everyone. Mm-hmm. So I specifically wanted that story to have it. I've been experimenting with making my own overlays, and so I think probably I'll try to refine that process so I can, and that's just because then I can be extremely exact with everything. James did a fantastic job, and I didn't mail him the pieces either. I just sent 300 DPI scans, but there's little, micro adjustments that you can't always plan for when you don't, until you actually have the art in hand. So doing it myself just gives me a lot of, sense of security about it.
Sure, I don't blame you. Like you said, you couldn't give the art to Trad's art away. That you had to give him all the measurements and then just hope that it all comes together properly when it comes back. I understand that. And but you have a knack for it. It's like the way you pack art. You have that. You have an eye for what you want, and you've got the talent to put those books together. So I'm impressed. I want to see the books every time you put a new one together.
All right. I think I see my collection, like Carl's saying, contracting to a point where, if I had 12 polished single issues up in my gallery, I'd be super happy. Like that would just be a really nice. And then, then I'd have to rebind everything so they're all the same size on the shelf. But
so you definitely see yourself as because you've bought a few, even a current one. So complete issues are very special. I mean, I've never been able to get one. I guess I've never really found one that I really wanted, but it's something that I remember we talked early on about that. It's something that you do see yourself buying complete issues when the story strikes you, right? I mean, that's important.
Absolutely. The story. There's one complete issue I have that was really put together really as an academic exercise, because I had the cover and the interiors were done by 3 different artists. It's really bizarre. So I was like, can I track them all down and see if they have the pages? But I also think that if there's a story that you like, even, it may not be the best story ever, but it's a great story with, art that was memorable to you. If it's not a mainstream book, reach out. And, the prices there's some artists where the pages are going for $150, $200 a page.
Mm-hmm.
So the complete issue is not going to be that expensive. And if it's something you enjoyed, I've been preaching this to a lot of people, that it's useful for the artist. If you're going to have a complete issue that you're going to display and promote, that's good for them. It sells all of their pages, which is nice. You don't have those talking head pages floating around. It reduces the number of an artist's pages that are just kind of available, which I think is important from a marketing point of view for some artists as well. I complain all the time that you go on Cadence's website, just to put them on the spot. There's artists who are fantastic, but Cadence has 500 pages of art available from that person. It's daunting, it's too much, and it dilutes the perceived value of that person's work. I would like to see them be more focused about what they're presenting. And, I think all dealers should think about sequences, give someone a package deal so you're not stuck with those 3 pages that are in between the splashes, get people to keep them together.
Bill, you're getting spammed in the comments.
Yeah, what's going on?
Yeah, I wasn't even reading the comments at all.
Yeah, after like the 6th one, I figured that out and didn't want to interrupt Mikhail.
Wasn't I just saying the other night that I needed to have more moderators? Yeah. Well, the webcam chat has disappeared from our view.
The pillows are because the Silver Surfer book cannot be opened up flat. It's very finicky.
I mean, that's an interesting point you were making about reps and selling artwork, though. I've never really thought of it quite like that before, and it certainly would benefit them and their artists too to get more work sold if they could find better ways to package some of those things together, so they're not stuck with the talking head pages, or they're not inundated with 600 pages on one artist's page on their site. I mean, that can drag things down a bit, and like you said, make it a bit more daunting when you're shopping. And it's not just Cadence, right? I mean, I think there's they have a huge selection of pieces. They have a lot.
It stood out.
No, as reps go, I think they have the most artwork on their, actively for sale on their site. When I was talking with them about doing their website for them, that was one of the bigger hangups I had, was because I knew they had over 20,000 pages of art for sale from a rep. I mean, I already have to deal with that with Anthony, who isn't a rep, who I guess he is a rep, but most of his art isn't repped. But bringing on a rep that had that many pages was going to eat up a lot of server space, and that wasn't really something. I wanted to have it, but I didn't want to work on it that bad. So I can see your point there. But definitely not your last complete book purchase, though. And Carl, it doesn't sound like the same for you as well, right? I mean, you would be open to picking up another complete issue if the opportunity presented itself.
I'm embarrassed to say there was already a couple on the way. I was actually stopping by my mailbox today to try to grab them, but the place shut down before I got back because the traffic was so bad. But yeah, I'm completely just sucked into it. I just think about it all the time, and I'm just selling stuff I never thought I would sell just to like get into this program because I just feel like so much more joy, and I'm looking at so much more when it's a portfolio of a story that kind of brings it all together. And, you know, Jason, you can relate to is when you were sharing, I saw the sparkle in your eyes. You were like, "Oh man, like all the pieces connect." So yeah, I'm in. So.
And hats off to people who put them together, because that's if you're putting together something that's more than 5 years old, that's impressive.
I agree. It's
Mikhail, did you put any of yours together individually, or you bought them all complete?
the Shazam one that I did, where I had to contact all the 3 artists, I kind of put together, but none of the pages were out in the wild. I got them all from the artist. And no, I have a couple that are in various stages. One I gave up on, How 371, but yeah, it's fun. It's like I thought about talking when we were talking about the jam pieces a couple of shows ago. It's like it's got to be like that. You've got to have that mentality that this may never even happen. But if I had a book from my childhood that I loved, I imagine that would top even any of the things that I have right now.
Yeah, like I
But
said,
it'll never happen.
Yeah, talking to Rob and hearing about his journey in assembling all the covers of Cosmic Ghost Rider, it made me feel like, oh wow, it's actually possible, but it also sounds like a lot of work. So yeah, it's I don't know if I'm ready for that yet, but I'm probably a little lazy currently. But I think I think I need to like purge my collection first before I could really start like hunting specifically.
I think if you were a full-time dealer, it would be a fun side gig to put together issues.
Yeah, sure.
And just to Carlos's comment about 371, Mikhail actually did reach out to me when he was selling those, and I'm a 372 guy, actually. That's one of my favorite issues. I'm not trying to put it together because I only have a single page, but I did appreciate.
You got to start somewhere, Dave.
Yes. Oh yeah. Yeah. That would be a challenge to put a Keown book from that era together.
I say nigh impossible.
Yeah.
You can also do sequences. That's as much fun in some cases.
That's what I've resigned myself to on that one.
And Jason, do you have the bug now, though, Jason? Now that you got your first one?
No, I think that this is it, and that's what I was just going to say. The only reason I think I got enough to pull this is because it was published from pencils, so it was never split into inker and pencil pieces to begin with. Right. So it's been with the same rep for 20 years. Just no one knew we had it available. So I got one. It's Claremont. I'm good.
Yeah, I don't see myself going to the point where that becomes the focus. I could see picking up a book, every other year or something. I mean, really not even on a schedule, just as opportunity would present itself. I don't think I'd be able to sell off individual pieces that really mean a lot to me to chase and put full books together. But who knows? That's today. Maybe a year from now. Might see it.
And I think that's a good point that Bill highlighted too, is that there are way more cases of all the interiors being together with perhaps no cover, and I think that's fine too. I mean, I have one that's like that. I commissioned 2 covers, had a blast doing it. The original cover was digital, so it never existed anyways. I think commissioning a cover is a great way around that. If it kind of rankles, unless you really wanted the cover, obviously, then that's different. But if it's putting you off that there's no cover, there's ways around that to make the thing just as special and just as presentable.
That's a great idea. I haven't been able to do that no cover thing. I've definitely just turned down anything that didn't have a cover because I just feel like it's not complete. So actually, I like that remake idea. It's a great idea.
That's not a bad idea. I mean, especially when it wouldn't feel complete without something on the up front.
Yeah, that's why it was the first thing I did. And then, so for example, the Bill Queese Everly issue that I have, Yannick Paquette did the cover digitally. And so because Bill Queese had done all the interiors, I actually found 2 women to do covers. So it's an all woman art book as well. So that was an element that I was able to put into the cover. And I was able to kind of art direct a little bit. Like, what element of the book do I want highlighted? And the cover to this issue actually highlighted the minor part of the story and not the major part of the story. And my covers highlight the major part. So, and they're labeled on my cast gallery as owner's prerogative, cover 1 and cover 2.
Very, very nice. Well, this was a good topic. I mean, I wasn't sure how it was going to go, but it's nice to see that there's a lot of people in the chat who also have picked up a few complete issues. And if I could get a complete book and the pages cost $200 less, I might go for it too if the opportunity presented itself. I think that would just be neat. I think the feeling of owning a complete book would just be something that, it's definitely a different experience from owning something that's just a single page or even a sequence. So.
And if I just to point people in a direction, I think Inky Knuckles, Cam has a lot of artists working traditionally. You have to look for that as well now. Are they working traditionally or not? And priced super reasonably. Working on indie titles, smaller titles, great stories. Lots of opportunity there. I'd suggest writing to him for anyone who wants to start smaller. And hats off to Felix too, because he keeps the prices pretty consistent. He's not gouging you on a complete issue. I saw what he's selling. Like his prices haven't increased in a year and a half. The Nick Klein Thor books I thought were generally quite reasonable considering the quality of the work. Sorry, so I think about these a lot.
Well, buy more often than not. I mean, they're not advertising that the complete issue is available, so you're reaching out in advance, and I would assume in most of these cases,
very proactive. Yeah,
you have to be because Felix doesn't come out and say, I've got the complete issue and it's being sold this way. You need to kind of go out and say, I want it, or I want to be on the list, or just kind of keep on them about those things. And so, that I guess that would be. That's something that everybody needs to kind of know, is that typically the books aren't being advertised as complete for sale. You do need to reach out and engage directly with the artist or the artist rep to facilitate that sale in most cases. And Jason,
and you can find an interesting opportunity. The Adam Hughes story that I have has no women in it. So think about it like that. I probably got a more reasonable price on it. And I love it. It's Captain America, who I think is Adam's favorite. It's phenomenal. So it hit that spot where I was able to afford it. And I think I didn't piss off too many fans by getting it, because, a lot of people want a pinup or something from Adam.
Sure.
Yeah. There was a comment about Felix's prices not feeling too expensive, and I responded and I said, no, if you really actually look around and hunt around and you talk to other dealers, like Felix's prices are very reasonable, because I think what other dealers tend to do is to say, oh, here's a full issue, but here's a premium, and no cover, and I'm kind of okay, that doesn't make sense to me. I feel like if we're taking all those pages off of your hands, I feel like there should be a discount, or even just if it's even, it's totally cool too. But I do feel like Felix is very reasonable, and he's got his ears on the ground as to what's reasonable, and he can justify it. And I think that's what I think is a highlight for me personally, and why I buy from him. The other thing to look out for, actually, there are a lot of reasonable prices out there, but if it's too good to be true, it is, because there was a book that I was going after, and I was in with the dealer talking about it, talked to the artist, and I was like, oh man, I totally fell in love with the pages. And then it's and then when they sent me the invoice, it was an artist proof. I was like, artist proof? What the heck is that? So I searched, and it's freaking model prints. And I was like, what? And not mentioned at all through the process. And I was just trying to sell this full issue. at like amazing like dream price, and turns out to be a bunch of prints. And so yeah, definitely be careful as you guys are going out there as well to double ask those questions as you're diving into it, because no matter what, it all adds up.
And complete issue sales are also an interesting way to see what's going out that's not showing up on CAF, for example. So Department of Truth, for example, I know issues 8, 9, and 10, I believe, all sold complete. I put 8 on CAF. I haven't seen a page out of 9 or 10. So there are collectors out there buying big books complete and not, they're not a part of the CAF ecosystem. So that's interesting to me as well.
Very true. Very true. So, hey, I don't know whose mic it is that has the clicky sound. Sorry to say, everybody. I saw you mentioning it in the chat. Unless they start just muting one mic after another, I just know it's not mine. So I thought it was somebody clicking on their keyboards, but it's okay. It wasn't very loud. But no, great. Again, Trad Daddy, it was so awesome to have you take some time this evening to sit down with us and make us all feel underdressed. So if I would have known, I would have worn my bow tie this evening too.
It was the highlight of my week, and it's been a fun week. I love the auction recaps and the collector conversation, Jiggy's show. It's been fantastic.
Yeah, it has. Actually, I've really enjoyed ever since. The Joe Linsner show went really well. So it's really like it feels like I haven't stopped for a while. But the shows have been a lot of fun and just a lot more engaging than I was expecting. And Jiggy gave me a lot of good compliments from his artists after that show as well. I guess they just it boosted their spirits to have people really impressed and with stepping up and Robbie selling everything that he brought to the show. And those things make me feel really good. He had said that they did like the San Diego online show, and it just wasn't the same, because they don't really do a very good job of promoting the artists and whatnot. So he let me know that they were very appreciative, and it was just great to have the participation from a lot of people who were in the chat, watching that show and buying art from them. So it made me feel good too. It worked out really well for them.
I felt like it was fun because people were being exposed to the art and liking it and warming up and then really kind of getting into it. And it was an honest reaction because the stuff was great. Yeah,
exactly. And a lot of it's new for me too. So, just being like I saw Mannix's work the first time at Comic Art Live. And so it's so cool to actually get to meet him in the green room and chat before the show. I mean, you're not going to have those kind of opportunities really, unless the artists are really willing to put themselves out there too. And it was fun. I mean, I thought that was one of the highlights for me of the last month, really, was just getting to hang out with them before and after the show and set everything up and work with them on that. So we'll definitely, he's very, very anxious to do another one. So I'm sure he and I are going to do something for Comic Art Live similar to that as well. But we're at the 2-hour mark. See, time flies when we're just talking about comic art. I love it. But let's see. And yeah, I guess the big question of the night, though, that we can end this on for Mikhail is people want to know where you got those pillows.
My wife got them for me from Etsy. So,
from Etsy. All right. So Bed Bath & Beyond is out. It's on Etsy.
It's on Etsy.
All right, Marcus. You heard it there. Oh, lost job. I did not. Let's see. Where did Ryan go? He popped out, Ryan.
He's back.
All right. So let's call it an evening. Thank you, everybody, for putting together the topics tonight. Every one of them was really well thought out, and we got a lot of participants. Yeah, there's a pillow gap now. See, now we've got another phrase, another fun saying, the Etsy Mafia. All right, Kavi. Again, I think we'll be back next week. We haven't worked out the panelists, but Dave and Ryan, thank you for coming in and doing this for the first time. We really appreciate it. If anytime you have another topic that you'd like to discuss with the group, please let us know. Now that you're a part of the fraternity, you're always welcome back. And anybody out there as well, if you've got a topic that you'd like to talk about with the rest of the community, please reach out to either myself or James Siegel. We're happy to set up having another show and having you on it. So just let us know.
It is the James show, even when he's not on it. We need to
Yeah,
make sure.
I actually put a DPS back there just for James.
Oh yeah, let's let him have one good look at it.
There it is.
There we are.
Yeah.
Mr. DPS. All right, everybody. Well, thank you again for being on here, and thank you, Mikhail, for being a guest spot for us this evening and showing off those awesome complete issues. So we'll see everybody again next Sunday, and have a wonderful week.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.